We've all seen movies about treasure and gold, haven't we? And some have even dreamed of finding hidden treasure like diamonds and gems. For me, it's a reality. It's all thanks to my older sister Melody. Well, first things first, my name's Travis, and I'm going to tell you about an amazing adventure that happened to me and my sister last summer. Let me tell you about my family. My dad and mum are both volunteers. For as long as I can remember, we often moved from one country to another, traveled a lot, saw so many unusual places, and apparently this had a big impact on our outlook on life. My sister and I dreamed of being like our parents. A couple of years ago, Dad was called on a mission to Africa. We were all excited as a family. Elephants, crocodiles, green and dangerous forests, and eternal sunshine. It was just right after the cold days of London. Melody and I fell in love with Africa from the first minutes. It was exactly the right place to live. While my parents and I were working helping the locals, my sister and I walked around our new neighborhoods, met villagers and ate exotic foods. We often saw unusual and sometimes dangerous animals, and each time we were thrilled to see how mesmerizingly beautiful nature is here. Once, when my parents left for the savannah, my sister and I wondered where we'd go this time. Melody said that her new friends would go to the mountain river. According to them, it's very beautiful there. We decided to see this new place and go for a swim. Taking towels and Panama hats, my sister and I went for a fun sort of hike. We sang songs and remembered funny stories, and before we knew it, we were at the river itself. It was really incredibly beautiful here. It was like a fairy tale. The river was calm, with a subtle breeze and birds chirping in the trees. I ran to the river and decided we'd go for a swim. The water was actually very warm. We left our towels and jumped into the water. We started playing, diving, just having fun. Suddenly, Melody's face changed. She cried out sharply, "Ouch, ouch, that hurt." I immediately swam over there to see what was going on. I stepped on something. It was something very sharp. "I think I hurt my foot." Melody was almost crying. It looked like she was in a lot of pain. I dove in to see what she had stepped on and saw a small rock with sharp corners. After pulling it to shore, we started looking at it. Melody twirled it around and rubbed it a little and squinted at the light that shimmered out in our find. Wow, I was so surprised. The stone sparkled with all the colors of the rainbow and was incredibly beautiful. Melody said that she would see what kind of stone we had found, but in the meantime, we'd take it home. She limped down on the road and I walked behind her and carried the stone, not knowing that yet we found a fortune. No one was home, so my sister and I decided to look for information about the stone. After a brief search, we stumbled upon an article that said that our find was a rare type of diamond. Wow! Melody immediately suggested that we should go back to that place again, and maybe we'll be lucky enough to find another such stone. I agreed, and we changed clothes and took our backpacks and went to the river. When we reached the place, my sister and I split up and started searching. I went to the water and dived to the bottom, hoping to find more rocks, while Melody watched on the bank. After a while, she called loudly for me, waving happily. As soon as I came running, my sister pointed under her feet. I didn't see anything until she started shoveling the sand just when I saw little grains of yellow, and it was gold. We couldn't believe our luck. We had found a treasure spot. We're rich. Melody began to collect the gold, carefully putting them in a bag, while staying in parallel what she would spend the money on. I'm gonna buy a house with probably a big one, with a swimming pool, go to uni, fly to Paris, a new iPhone, shoes, and her musings were interrupted by a voice above our heads. We were startled and speechless. Above us stood several people with spears in their hands, and they were very angry. They were saying something in their language, and although we couldn't understand anything, it was clear from their gestures and from their mood that we were not welcome here. Everything Melody had collected was taken away from her. She almost cried. Her dreams of Paris and shoes were not going to come true. Those people showed us to follow them, but we wouldn't listen to them, and I received a light stab in the back, realizing that by not following their instructions, I might get hit harder. I obediently followed them, and Melody followed suit. We walked for about half an hour through the thickest and tall trees. We were scared. No one knew how our walk would end. We were led to a village of some kind. They were cooking something. Slightly further away, there were menacing men roasting a wild boar on a stick. All our sight, they frowned and came towards us. One of the men started shouting loudly, waving his hands, pointing to the sky and towards the mountains. Sorry, we don't understand. But Melody's sorry for trying to take all that stuff. Melody almost cried out with fear. A girl about my age came out of the crowd and said in English, "You can't take gold and other jewels. Our gods don't like it. All that nature gives belongs to her. You can't break the laws." We were so happy. We understood. I began to explain that we didn't do it on purpose and that we did not know their laws, and we apologized for our behavior. The girl translated our words and the people in the crowd were silent, only looking at us menacingly. Their silence gave us a creepy feeling. This ball was spinning right in front of our eyes. Momentarily, I imagined myself in this place and almost fainted. "Go!" said one of the men, apparently the leader of the tribe. Melody and I looked at each other, apologizing again. We backed up and then ran for our lives. I don't know how we ended up at our house, but it was a super fast, long distance run, thanks to our athletic training. As our parents arrived, we told them about our accident. Mum explained that despite the riches of nature, the local people never touch the gold or the gems. They believe that whoever takes nature's gifts will receive punishment from their own. My sister and I sighed in relief and since decided to stay out of the way and follow the rules and laws of the country we were visiting. One adventure was enough for a lifetime. If you liked the video, then please give us a like, comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Hello everyone, my name is Muna. I'm a high schooler and it's almost graduation, and I have tons of plans for the future, but there's just one thing. I need money for it. And it's not like I can ask my parents for it because they aren't rich. They can barely afford my potential college tuition. So I decided to get a job. I mean, I think it's a pretty good idea, because legally, minors can work half a workday, and as long as it doesn't affect school attendance, it's fine. As I went to a job center, I dreamed I'd become some kind of assistant to a CEO of a major company. I pictured myself in a clean office, sipping on some sophisticated imported coffee, with the CEO taking me all over the world, earning a ton of money in the process. However, as I entered the center, I was massively let down. I was offered to sort mail at a meat processing plant. Huh? What the hell? How the heck am I supposed to tell my friends I work at a meat factory? I'd be made fun of forever. To make matters worse, there aren't any other jobs available for minors, but they said they'd let me know if there was new vacancies. I wasn't happy, but thought, how bad could it be? Plus, the pay wasn't bad. So I took the job and headed to the plant. Meat processing is the biggest industry in this town, and almost everyone works there. Apparently, many see it as a place for a good, stable income. I always hated coming near this place because I knew animals were slaughtered here. I remember as a kid seeing how the pretty cows were taken on their big trucks and never returned. And as I got older, I realized that sausages and other meat products were actually made in here. This freaked me out, and I vowed to never eat meat again. But unfortunately, I ended up here for real. I hated myself for agreeing to work here, but I desperately needed the money to leave this city and this job. I was surprised to realize that this place was actually very clean, and the people were nice. I got registered on the system and was given my office. Basically, there were a bunch of letters and documents, and my job was to sort everything in the right boxes and deliver them to their recipients. In short, I was basically the local postman. It wasn't very difficult, and sometimes I even enjoyed it. I never went beyond my office, and even started to get attached to it. I was glad I didn't need to go near the cows, and all I was surrounded by were computers and people in suits. There was a whole bunch of mail that day, almost an unbearable amount. It took ages for me to sort through it, but suddenly stumbled upon an absolutely terrible letter. On the front of it was written, "To the CEO of the slaughterhouse, Mr. Joy." Oh no! I have to go to the slaughterhouse where the cows are! I could have never imagined having to go to that place. How horribly unlucky! Maybe I should just throw the letter away and say that it got lost. What do you think? What would you do? While I was panicked, my phone rang, and guess who it was? It was Mr. Joy. He asked me about the letter I just got and said he wanted me to deliver it right away. I said I'd bring it over. He noted that I'll need to be wearing a special hygiene suit. I didn't know what he was talking about, or did I? And then I remembered I was given a package when I started. So I reluctantly put it on and left my office. Even though it was only a 10-minute walk, it felt like ages. I dreaded going there, because even the thought of that place disgusted me. As I walked nearer, I saw cows being driven in trucks, like I saw when I was little, which made me so upset that I burst into tears. Now I had felt like I was involved in this whole thing. In the work area, I found Mr. Joy and gave him the letter. He was quite happy I delivered it to him and said that I didn't look like I had much to do, so offered me some tea in his break room. I thought to myself, I'm upset anyway. Maybe some tea will help. He poured me some tea and left me alone. I was still upset and just drank the tea and cried. After calming down a bit, I made myself comfortable on the break room couch and fell asleep. Suddenly, I woke up after hearing loud noises, glanced at the clock. It was midnight! Oh my God! They left me at the slaughterhouse! Damn it, I was supposed to go to a pajama party today, so my parents wouldn't be looking for me, but they will start realizing I'm not at Becky's house. I realized I had to get out of there. I heard a scary distant scream. Who could possibly be here at midnight? But then realized I need people to help me get out of here. Because honestly, I don't remember the way out. Leaving the room, I went down the corridor, closer to the voice. I entered the large workspace area, and what I saw there shocked me to my core. Mr. Joy was on his knees in the middle of the room. He was tied up and strange people demanded money from him. Mr. Joy assured them that he did not do anything and that he didn't have the money. They were berating him, but he stood his ground. Then, one of the bandits pressed a button and a wire with hooks on it appeared. Cow carcasses were usually hung up on them, with deadly saws at the end to prepare to divide them. But instead of cows, a woman hung on one of the hooks. When Mr. Joy saw her, he screamed. She cried and asked him to give them what they wanted. It was Mr. Joy's wife. He was devastated. I stood in shock, unable to move. The wire was getting closer and closer to the saws, and then it hit me. What the hell am I doing? I began to plan what to do, looked around, and saw an electrical panel. Bingo! I ran to the dashboard and turned off the electricity in the shop. The wire stopped moving. A bandit shouted, "Who's there? Find them and bring them to me." I ran and hid in some room, then started dialing 911. And just when the dispatcher picked up, a bandit grabbed me by the leg and pulled me from under the table. I shouted to let me go, and I don't want to die in this slaughterhouse like a cow. The phone remained under the table, and I didn't know whether or not the operator could understand me. I was brought to the main slaughterhouse. They tied my hands and hugged me on the wire next to Mr. Joy and his wife. They asked me who I was. Mr. Joy begged them to let me go because I had nothing to do with it. But their main bandit said that I had seen too much and he can't let me live. He made a sick joke that tomorrow the sausages will be particularly tasty. I felt ill and nauseous. My head started spinning. Only thing I saw were the terrifying saws in front of me. The wire began to move again. Mr. Joy screamed. The woman started crying, but suddenly the tape stopped. Everyone froze. "Move her first. Let's start with her, so that he has more time to think," said the main bandit, pointing at me. "That's it. I have no chance of escape." I didn't even cry. My fear left me. I lost all hope and simply accepted my fate as I couldn't do anything. I didn't even resist when they moved me. I just stared into space. When my eyes met with Mr. Joy's, he told me, "Thanks," with his lips alone, not a sound. But I could get what he meant. I just smiled at him hopelessly. I didn't even know what he did, but I knew that I was about to die because of him. They tied me up, and the wire started moving again. I stared at the saws, which were getting closer to me. Their buzzing was much louder than any crying or screaming. I closed my eyes and started saying goodbye to my loved ones, to my dream, and accepted that I shouldn't even be mad at these people and just gave up. The saws crept closer. With my eyes closed, I plunged into darkness, and suddenly, I felt like I was just hanging. I'm really hanging. The wire stopped, and I opened my eyes. I saw saws right in front of me. Another few seconds, and I'd be a goner. My hands were really numb, ears were ringing, and I couldn't properly register what just happened. Maybe the bandits just decided to taunt us, and now they will turn it on for good. Or maybe my 911 call was understood. I tried to see what was below, but I could not. Everything was spinning. I was terribly disoriented. I only saw saws, and it was terrifying. Suddenly, the wire went off again. I closed my eyes and screamed. I screamed so loudly that I did not realize that I was actually going in the other direction. I was moving away from the saws. When I opened my eyes, I saw 2 policemen helping me get off the hook. They took me off and gave me to the medics. The rest, I don't remember out of shock. Time had passed, and I had huge news. Today, the chief of police will reward me for my courage. When I left the hospital, I found out that I had become locally famous. Apparently, Mr. Joy was doing dirty business in his meat processing plant and owed the mafia a lot of money. Him and his family is now in witness protection and the mafia can't get to them. And because of my inspiring story, my whole family decided to become vegan. So after the award ceremony, I've got a vegan picnic and party waiting for me. Also, you want to know something? Now I know exactly who I want to be. And luckily, the police chief wrote some good recommendations for me. And I just submitted my application to the police academy. So I'm doing just fine. And if you liked the video, then leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.